All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 brought to us by the official beer of the program. You know I'm talking about Johnny Cuba, European roots with that Caribbean soul, a refreshing German lager in a can. Go to johnnycuba.us, use the Johnny locator, find the nearest location to you. How else are you to kick back and enjoy some Monday Night Football tonight other than with an ice-cold, fresh Johnny Cuba? Make sure you always drink responsibly, and don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. So tonight, I already told you, ESPN Radio, Amber and Ian, 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. I'm on with my girl, Amber Wilson, tonight. That's not going to stop me from having you on my show here. I couldn't wait to talk to you about the Dolphin game yesterday. Hello, Amber.
Hello, ZASLOW. I did text you and I said, would you rather do this on a day that we're not actually on air together? But we're on air together like 3 times this week. So you get ZASLOW and Amber Monday, Tuesday, Friday this week, all on Amber and Ian.
Look, there's no time frame where, like, hey, if I have you on today, I can't have you on my show again for a certain amount of time or a certain number of weeks. I'll have you on today. I'll have you on again whenever we want. There's no timetable here, Amber.
People can't get enough of us, so I think it's fine.
That's what I'm saying. So, yes, today, tomorrow night, and Friday, of course, with Amber and Ian on the road, so you'll get a lot of me and Amber, which is great. This weekend, though, I was in Ann Arbor. You did the show with us from your home, from Sarasota, fake South Florida. It's not South Florida. You did it from Sarasota, Amber and Ian on the road on Friday night. And then, of course, me and Rashad did the show Saturday live outside the big house. You were very jealous. Amber, I already told you, you would have loved it the most. I really can't wait to have you back out there. I mean, push that baby out and let's get this thing going. Come join us again.
That's the plan. In a couple weeks from now, working on that. So he's only got a couple more weeks to cook before he gets evicted. But yeah, I had major FOMO. I was so jealous. And also because you said that it was cold out there. It was like 60 degrees. You had a parka on and a winter coat.
It was a little nipply. I'll be honest. A little bit nipply.
You're a little dramatic. So the rest of the season's not going to go well for you when 60 degrees is already bothering you. But yeah, no, I was super, super jealous. Obviously, I've never been to the big house. So was it big, ZASLOW? Because that's what they say about it.
Amber, the big house was big. It was very big. The weirdest part, though, is like you're walking up to the stadium and the scoreboard is right there next to you. The wall of the stadium, it's about like 50 feet high. Like, so we're talking the top row of the stadium is like 50 feet high. How is this a big stadium if the top row is right there as I'm walking into the stadium gates? And you get in and you walk into the actual stadium bowl and you're already at like row number 85. And it's built down. And I've never seen like a structure like that. It was really, really neat.
Well, you're used to stadiums in Florida. We can't really go down. We'd be in the ocean if we went
down. But is that a common thing though?
Yeah, I mean, it's not common, but there's a bunch of stadiums around the country that are built down into the ground. I know Virginia Tech, I think, is one of those stadiums. There are several where they end up building them down. But I mean, like I said, I've never seen it. I know it's like 108,000, and then somehow they always add in a few thousand more. I don't really know how that works. And it's the biggest stadium in the country. I've never experienced that. I was super jealous because I've always wanted to know how loud the big house is. Now I've heard that even though it's the biggest stadium in the country, it's not the loudest stadium in the country because of how it's designed, but also imagining 109,000 people or whatever screaming at once. I mean, that's got to be pretty cool. Not that Michigan fans have a ton of reason to scream.
Right. Like I didn't get that full experience. I wanted to go out and watch. I was in the press box, very stuffy. I wanted to go out into the crowd, like in the fourth quarter if the game was close, and just find a place to stand and experience it. But yeah, like we didn't get that opportunity. But I can't wait to have you back with us. I thought about you. You would have loved it the most. So anyway, not to make you jealous, but the Dolphins, we'll get to the Tyreek Hill stuff. How did you experience the game yesterday? Are you watching it in Wilson Manor? What's the setup there yesterday?
Yeah, the setup is I watched it all by myself on my couch. I did not do anything yesterday except for watch football. I watched football for 10 hours straight. It's all I did.
That's
the
good,
only
right?
thing I did is that me and my elderly dog, we watched football for like 4 hours on the couch downstairs. And then at some point we both moved to the couch upstairs for a change of view. And then after another like 3-4 hours, we moved back downstairs to try to keep things fresh. So that was our strategy. But no, I was alone. My husband and my kiddo went to the Bucks game yesterday. I am failing in the department of ensuring that my 5-year-old son is a Dolphins fan, even though he's growing up near Tampa. That is a miserable fail so far because he ends up going to Bucks games far more often than he goes to Dolphins games. And he loves Tom Brady. I still have to explain to him all the time, Tom Brady not on the team. He thinks it's hilarious that there's some dude named Baker now that's on the team because, Baker, they bake. He doesn't really understand that can also be a name. But they went to the Bucks game, and I am too pregnant to go to games at this point. I mean, I'm not theoretically, but I'm miss me with the 95.
No, you're going to sit outside and so uncomfortable in those plastic chairs with that belly.
Oh my God. I'm at a point in pregnancy where I'm making it from one couch to the other was an accomplishment. I was proud of myself. So yeah, that was my setup. I have a bunch of TVs in my man cave. I'm really fortunate. And YouTube TV is the absolute best. It's thebomb.com because you can do the 4-panel split even when you're watching.
Well, so do you have the Sunday ticket?
So I guess I'm a little confused by how that whole thing went down because I don't recall renewing. I don't know. I have YouTube TV. And this Sunday, I was nervous that I was going to have to buy the Sunday ticket because I don't believe that me or my husband have purchased that yet. And yet I had access. Now I do have an NFL.com subscription that gives me Red Zone,
right,
that I had purchased separately before that automatically renewed this year, which frankly didn't mean to let that happen, but got the little email about that. And I'm like, okay, well, at least I have Red Zone. But I was thinking I'm going to have to spend $800 to watch Dolphins games because I'm not in the market.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I had every game, across the entire country. So I don't know if the Sunday ticket renewed somehow. And my husband and I just don't know what card it's on because we haven't seen the bill for it yet. But
okay,
we
Amber,
had a lot of conversations about this $700 price tag. I mean, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, Amber,
really
I don't need to be a detective to tell you have the Sunday ticket. All right, if you got every game,
went on one of his credit cards. How is anybody affording this right now? It's so crazy the cost of it, and yet I feel like I've got to do it for my job. Can't write it off. I'm not an independent contractor, so it is what it is. But at the same time, it did entertain me for an entire Sunday, so maybe it's money well spent.
Were you pins and needles? Were you anxious yesterday? Did you think they were going to lose down 10 in the second half?
I mean, I was anxious in the first half because it was sloppy football. Now I wouldn't say I was surprised because, I've talked, and you and I have talked on air. I've talked a lot about these first couple weeks of the regular season now in the NFL. It's like watching preseason football for the starters because most of them don't even play much in the preseason. And that's not what the preseason is about anymore. So I wasn't surprised that that the chemistry seemed off with Tua and his receivers and the offense wasn't high powered and all the sorts of problems that we were having in the first half. Frankly, I just don't feel like it's hard to judge. I mean, there's some things that happened around the NFL this weekend that I feel pretty confident that we can judge moving. I doubt the Carolina Panthers are all of a sudden going to become, Super Bowl contending juggernauts at any point this season. There's some things like that I think you can take away from the first weekend. But also at the same time, I think you have to recognize with all of these teams that a sluggish start is reasonable and kind of expected from starters, and that it's going to take at least a half of football for them to kind of get that chemistry down and get their footing from under them. And I think we got a little bit spoiled with the Chiefs-Ravens game out of the gate because I think that wasn't nearly as sloppy as I expected it to be. But, it's the Chiefs, it's the Ravens. It was a revenge game. And they were extra prepared, I think.
Well, to me, that was one of the biggest things that I took from yesterday was based on everything we saw yesterday throughout the league and what we saw Thursday night with the Chiefs and Ravens. The Chiefs and Ravens are a cut above everyone else. I think that was very obvious because not only did the Chiefs and Ravens look great in their first game of the season, they looked great against each other. And then you look at all the teams that played yesterday, and there was a lot of sloppy. And so my biggest takeaway from yesterday's action was the Chiefs and Ravens. They're a cut above everybody else right now.
They also knew that they were a standalone game, that all eyeballs are on them, right? And they knew that it's a big statement game for them coming off the AFC Championship. So I think that there's an element of that. But yes, obviously, in addition, those two teams look like the two best teams in the National Football League, which isn't shocking.
I don't normally get too excitable during Dolphin games, Amber. Like, I lost that, or at least I thought I lost that part of my Dolphin fandom years ago. And certainly it's creeped back over the last couple years because they're better, and I really like Tua. But yesterday, I was into that game yesterday. I was off the couch. I'm fist pumping. I'm yelling. I know, right? You see your face.
It's game one. It's week one. It's the Jags. Like, what are we yelling at the TV?
No, I'm yelling in excitement. I wasn't like yelling angry.
The second half, 70-yard touchdown by Tyreek. You're yelling.
The second half was so exciting. It really was because, you had Javon Holland punching the football out, play of the game, obviously. Game's over if they score there. Play of the game, obviously. Instead of 24/7, Dolphins have the football back next. So that was exciting. Then the very next play, you have Hill with the touchdown. That was exciting. The very next play after that, you had the Jaguars fumble on the kickoff, which the Dolphins totally should have recovered. That was super exciting for a moment until we saw that they didn't get the football. And then, of course, you had the sacks with Jalen Phillips and Emmanuel Ogbah and getting the football back and then a chance to win it. That second half was so exciting.
Yeah, the second half was so exciting. The first half, I was seeing other Dolphins fans on my timeline, like, already giving up on the team. But yes, the second half obviously was
Tua
exciting.
was not good in the first half. Tua missing, the two big misses that he had. I forget the first receiver, but certainly the second one, Tyreek Hill. Tua was not good in the first half.
No, he was not. The chemistry was very obviously off in the first half. But like I said, it's kind of like the preseason for these guys. I was really encouraged, frankly, that they got it together in a half of football because I think that really bodes well for the rest of the season. I thought that the Dolphins defense looked really good considering
they looked awesome.
Which is, that's huge. We're going from Vic Fangio, which he didn't knock my socks off when he was here, but what the reputation is around the NFL. And there was a reason that we had made him the highest paid DC in the league last season, right at the time. And all of us were kind of in on that hire. And then it was like, And then there's all the talk, which you and I think has been way overstated about the pieces that we lost on defense.
They're going to be better.
And I was really encouraged yesterday by that side of the ball more than the offense, because frankly, I already know what we have offensively. Like, it was fine. Like, the second half was good. It was super exciting. I already know about those weapons. So I was really encouraged by what I saw defensively under a new DC.
And wait till Jalen Phillips gets his full allotment of snaps, and he made one of the biggest plays of the game yesterday. Wait till they eventually get Bradley Chubb back.
Right.
And look, at some point, Chop Robinson, you hope, will contribute, first-round pick. I'm telling you, I was not surprised. I've been saying it the entire offseason. This defense is going to be better. And the Christian Wilkins, I didn't miss Christian Wilkins yesterday. Zach Sealer was so good. You lose Christian Wilkins, he's a really good player, but this now means Zach Sealer is going to play more. And Zach Sealer is really good also. I love the defense.
And that's
Yes, I loved the defense yesterday. It was such an exciting game, and that's the kind of game that good teams find ways to win. A team that's not so great does not win that game yesterday, down 10 in the second half, making all of the big plays in the fourth quarter. That, to me, was the most encouraging part. There were so many things that – it's not like the Dolphins played bad yesterday, but there are so many things that They didn't necessarily do well, and they were able to overcome, and a good team wins that game yesterday.
Oh, absolutely. The tenacity that they showed and the fight that they showed. And then, I don't know how good the Jags are going to be this season, but again, it's week 1. I don't think it really matters. I think it was more about the resolve that they showed moving forward, the fact that they were so much better in the second half than the first half. I think that's encouraging. Some of those new looks that you are seeing from them, particularly defensively, and knowing that, hey, it's only going to get better from here. Because the only thing that's going to happen from week 1 is that you improve from there. And so I felt like, hey, that's a pretty darn okay start. I mean, no, it's not flawless and it wasn't beautiful. And Tua sucked in the first half. That's fine. But again, week 1, NFL season, coming off of the second half, coming off the dub, I feel pretty solid about it.
Amber, Trevor Lawrence stunk in the second half yesterday. He did nothing. I don't know if you were listening. I didn't hear Chris Canty this morning tell about on Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio, tell how awful Trevor Lawrence was, because I do know that if Tua had that second half and was nursing a 10-point lead late in the second half and lost that game, Tua would have been banned from the league.
Yes. He would have been. They would have been firing him this morning on ESPN Radio. It's remarkable because, and I know it's petty, right? Like all of us that come from the Miami market or work in the Miami market, it almost seems petty because
no other quarterback gets treated this way.
It's so bizarre. I mean, it's so bizarre. Like I even saw Barry tweet out, hey, nobody on ESPN was talking about the Trevor Lawrence contract maybe being the awful contract that ruins
10-point
the
lead
Jags. And then here you are, you had all this conversation when Tua got paid. And then Tua puts up 338 yards passing yesterday. Trevor Lawrence gave you 162 yards passing yesterday. And like you said, much better in the first half than he was even in the second half. But Trevor Lawrence wasn't great. Like he would, and like that, I've been saying that about Trevor Lawrence for a long time. At what point does he get that level of heat?
No, it's Urban Meyer's fault. That second half was on Urban Meyer last
night. Right,
night.
Exactly. Well, like at what point? And what's weird about it is Trevor Lawrence came into the league with far more hype than Tua ended up coming to the league. Because Tua wasn't even the number 1 overall pick. And I understand he had a lot of hype in college at one point, but after the hip injury, that all changed. And after the emergence of Joe Burrow, that equation changed. Trevor Lawrence came into the league with more hype than even Joe Burrow came into the league, and yet somehow has gotten a pass all these years. And yes, he's had snippets in his NFL career of looking okay. And he still may end up being okay. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence sucks, but Trevor Lawrence has not lived up to it. Yeah, he certainly hasn't. And we are years removed from him being that number 1 can't miss overall pick.
Now, Amber and I, again, tonight, 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern, we're going to say all these exact same things, all right? But I think this was like it was like a dress rehearsal. Matter of fact, I don't know why we can't
talk about the Dolphins as much tonight. I don't know.
Well, that's why I wanted to make sure I got you on today, because we just did about 20 straight minutes on the Dolphins. They're not going to let us do 20 straight minutes on the Dolphins tonight. So I wanted to make sure we got this going. Do you think that I can, what if I take this, I take the audio and I send it into our producer, James Steele, and I was like, hey, play this in that segment. Let's keep it moving. Can I do that?
Yeah, you could try. I don't think he's going to go for it, but I like your strategy.
All right, well, this was like the first run, and we'll do it even better tonight, so everybody should still tune in. But before I let you go here, Amber, Tyreek Hill before the game. Give me some thoughts on what happened there. Give me some thoughts. Now, listen, by the time people hear this, you're listening in the future. This is in the past. You may have more information, all right? So I don't know what we've heard by the time you're listening to this. But as of right now, we don't have any more extra information. What do you think is going to wind up coming out here? What do you think wound up happening? And just for me, like, my first initial thoughts were, and no matter what happened there, it certainly didn't come to the line where he should have been face down on the concrete and in handcuffs. But the part that stood out to me and is always going to stand out to me, it wasn't Jalen Waddle, it wasn't Raheem Mostert, it wasn't Devon Achane. Even if Tyreek Hill even if we find out he did nothing wrong yesterday, my overall point is still, it's always something with Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I understand that thought process. I mean, I heard Levitard joking that if there was one person in the entire NFL, if we were going to give you a guess of who would get arrested, before the end, particularly on the Miami Dolphins, Tyreek Hill. yes, Tyreek Hill has certainly been involved in controversies and legal issues, and some of those very serious. This is like the least serious thing, the least offensive thing that Tyreek Hill has theoretically been caught up in, or at least alleged or rumored to be caught up in, right? Is speeding or maybe reckless driving entering a stadium. I don't know. We don't know because Miami-Dade PD still has not told us, at least at the time of recording, what he was actually even stopped for or pulled over for. But it's so bizarre because like there's nothing else that could have been transpiring except for a player entering the game. I mean, you saw the car the man was in. Like, I mean, if that doesn't scream football, like that's not somebody coming to tailgate. I'm sorry. Like even in Miami, like, come on, what are we doing? It was 3 hours before the game. They were going into where the players go into. He's in a line of cars with a bunch of other players. And so even if you don't know who Tyreek Hill is, like, I'm pretty sure if you're policing that area, you've got some sense of, this is probably what's occurring. These are probably Dolphins players trying to get to the game. And I'm not saying that excuses anything, but it does seem like a weird leap then to go from you're stopping him because of something he allegedly did, and now all of a sudden he has to be out of the car on the ground, and he's in handcuffs, and then he's sitting up, and it looks like maybe one of the cops struck him while he's detained, and then they put Calais Campbell in handcuffs.
Yeah.
Calais Campbell didn't he win Walter Payton Man of the Year for the NFL? Calais Campbell is like as squeaky clean. Like, yes, we can say the things about Tyreek Hill, right? About, the past is the past in Kansas City as well. That's not just a Miami thing with Tyreek Hill. Calais Campbell doesn't have any of that. And that man, like, how do you get that man in handcuffs? That in itself. These tiny cops on motorcycles got Calais Campbell into handcuffs. Like, what the F? The whole thing is so crazy. And it seems from the outside looking in, and again, we don't know, but yeah, it seems entirely unnecessary the way that it was handled. And so one of the officers is on administration leave. I assume that we'll find out more information about what happened, but luckily nobody was hurt. And Tyreek ended up still being able to play the game okay, but the whole situation does seem messy.
Well, I know Drew Rosenhouse, Tyreek's agent, told Jeff Darlington before the game that Tyreek is distraught over what took place. Can you imagine how much better he could have played if he wasn't so distraught?
Well, Calais Campbell did say, I heard him say today on First Take, because they had Calais Campbell on. I only heard a snippet of it. But one of the things that he did say is that Tyreek, immediately after this all happened, and they ended up both getting released, that Tyreek was saying he wasn't going to play and that he was like really legit, like not going to play, like super upset. And that Drew Rosenhouse ended up having to take him away. And then it sounds like maybe Drew calmed him down and talked him into playing a little bit, maybe. And then cooler minds prevailed. And then obviously he went out there and balled out. So it did seem like apparently like he was super distraught and, eventually or initially not going to play.
I'm also going to make one more joke here, although that is really good information you gave us. When Jeff Darlington is talking to Drew Rosenhouse on the field before the game, and Drew Rosenhouse tells Darlington that Tyreek, he loves the police, he has major respect for police, and that he wants to be a police officer when he's done playing. How did Jeff Darlington not burst out laughing?
I don't know. Jeff is a pro's pro, which I mean, already we like, but also like, why is Jeff always there? Like that maybe needs to be looked into a little bit. But Jeff is a pro's pro. He did not burst out laughing. And then what's funny is Tyreek doubled down on that and said that in his press conference after the game as well, which I mean, like, is hilarious, but also didn't Shaq do it?
Oh, Shaq's a sheriff.
Yeah. So Shaq did it. Yeah. So I guess there's a precedent for it. So I guess it wouldn't be the craziest thing. I mean, if Tyreek Hill was a cop, there's no bad guy that's getting away. Like he'd be an excellent cop. Right?
That's right.
You're not running away from the popo if the popo's Tyreek Hill.
That's right. That's right. Don't make me run after you. I will catch you.
Can you imagine, by the way, if Tyreek had run when those cops were trying
they would never catch him.
It would have been like 4 tiny motorcycle cops and like the helmets like running after. Oh my gosh. Not to make light of the situation, but what the bleep.
What the fuck? Amber, excellent job. I'm looking forward to tonight. I hope everybody else is as well. So 7 to 10 p.m. tonight. You'll hear a lot of what you just heard. And,
no, we're going to talk tons NFL outside of that and college football. There's so much to talk about. Unfortunately, they're not going to let us talk about the Dolphins the whole time.
Great job, Amber. Thank you so much. We'll talk later.
Thanks.